Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview Sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.
Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. With me, as always, the inventor of the infomercial and original shark on the hit TV series Shark Tank, Kevin Harrington. Kevin, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Seth, great to be here. Looking forward to an exciting day today.
Yes, today we are joined by Chris, Mr. Moneyfingers Haddad, who is a legendary direct response copywriter and marketer whose sales letters and video sales letters have driven over $700 million in online sales. The actual number is significantly higher than that, but that's close. Chris has worked with clients such as Jeff Paul, Jeff Walker, Jeff Johnson, lots of folks not named Jeff, and achieved absolutely incredible results. Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's weird trying to do the math on sales letters and things. I've had some that have done hundreds of millions of dollars on their own for clients. And I keep thinking, if only I owned that offer myself, but that's okay. I started my own stuff eventually, so it worked out.
Awesome. So let's go back in time just a little bit. How'd you get started?
Dude, I got started in marketing because I was one of those guys. I grew up in Massachusetts, central Massachusetts in the 80s and 90s. I didn't know a single person who could make a living as a writer. I didn't know anybody in like marketing. My dad was a sales guy, direct sales kind of stuff. Got out of college, moved to LA, did a bunch of crazy stuff in LA, working on for different companies. I was just telling Seth offline about when Hillary Swank threatened to hit me with a frying pan because her parrot invited me into her house, which was pretty damn cool. Moved to Seattle, wrote greeting cards for a living, got fired from every job I ever had. And then one day I stumbled into this AWAI copywriting course thing and took that. And that became, I went from making like 30 grand one year to 200 grand the next year to a couple million a year a few years after that. It was quite a ride considering how low my self-esteem was at the time. It was fun.
I'm sure the longer version of that story could probably fill a book somewhere.
It's about not there. I actually have a video of that story kind of laid out somewhere that I did at a copywriting conference, and I literally made people cry about halfway through. It's quite a story. There's a lot to it.
Hey, Chris, I have a question just in terms of the business model that you operate. Okay, so I understand as a writer, you one model is you get paid for your time. Sort of you give a proposal, you finish it, you get paid. Are there other ways that you work beyond that?
So I don't even do that anymore. Honestly, I gave up freelancing about 10 years ago. So the short version was like, I was freelancing and I was really good at it. I was making 300-400 grand a year, whatever else, doing well. And I was making other people really, really rich, right? I have friends who made millions and millions of dollars off my work. They ran the businesses. That's cool. So one day I woke up and I had one client of mine, Alan Seltanik, and another guy who made like $10 million in a month off of something that I wrote for them. And they paid me 25 grand. And I called up Jay Diebold, who was one of the guys there. And I said, dude, send me a bonus. And he sent me $5,000. And I was like, that's a good bonus, except for you made millions and I got to get out of this. And so the short version, after that, I ended up creating an alter ego named Michael Fiore, who is still kind of out there. Michael Fiore is an internationally known relationship expert. I was on the Rachel Ray show as Michael Fiore. I had a best-selling book on Amazon Kindle for quite a while. It was like the Make Him Beg to Be Your Boyfriend, #1 thing there. And we built that business to about 8 figures within 3 years or so before I got really sick and had to take some time away. So the big thing was just like, I always tell my copywriting students too, I'm like, create your own offers, man. Like what you were saying, Kevin, I know you don't believe in trading time for money any more than I do, right? So the biggest mistake, when you're a freelancer, that's pretty much what you're doing. I managed to negotiate some percentage deals and things like that, but then I ended up doing my own offers. And these days I have my own offers, and I also partner with some friends of mine who run pretty big businesses, and they pay me a percentage or a CPA based on what we do together.
Yeah, because I mean, the over the years, we've used many creative folks, and we've started to make sure they're good, paying them a fee.
Mhm.
Then they come back and they say, well, hey, look, that infomercial that I wrote did $200 million in sales. I got 35 grand. Let's do something a little different. And you mentioned percentage. That makes sense. I want the best of the best. And and if you can come to me and write a script that's going to do 200 million versus 10 million or 0 million, okay? Because that normally is what it's like. It's sink or swim too, right?
Well, it's almost like some people, I was reading a book recently about people who, they get really mad that their salespeople are making too much money, right? They're like, they have commission salespeople, and the managers are like, we're not making as much as the commission salespeople. So they try to get rid of the commission thing. And of course it kills the damn company, right? You need people incentivized, especially the people that have the psychological abilities, writing abilities to actually make you money in the first place. So I never take deals just flat fee anymore, because I'm always trying to, come up with, passive or semi-passive streams of income.
What do you think about this new AI chat GPT trend that everybody's talking about, how we're going to use Jasper or chat GPT and everything, and we're going to, save all this time and all this expertise?
I'm excited and terrified, but mostly excited. And the reason I'm excited is because I've been playing with ChatGPT. I've been studying the AI thing. I'm actually working on an offer with friends about the AI thing right now. But what I'm known for, copywriting wise, that I'm known for being the best in the world at, is emotion and storytelling and copy. People that read my copy, I make you feel something. I make you want something. I know how to use stories to create a path, a slippery slide where you end up taking out your wallet and wanting to buy it later. And so I do think ChatGPT and AI is going to be very useful as far as a creative brainstorming thing. I do think it's going to take over kind of, meat and potatoes copy, right? A lot of people that are content writers, blog writers, folks that just write SEO based copy and call themselves copywriters, I think they're kind of screwed. But I do think the rest of us, if you know the psychology of marketing and know how to be creative, it can be a very, very powerful tool. But we'll see what happens. I'm doing what I can to make sure that I take advantage of it, because that genie is not going back in the bottle, no matter how much we may want it to in the future.
Absolutely. What are some of the favorite promotions that you've run?
Oh man, I did one called Power for Home years and years ago for my buddy Chris Fox, who I'm working with again now. That ended up being a #1 offer on ClickBank for I think 2 years or so. I made about $500,000 on that just from a percentage piece. So I know he did very, very well with it as well. I did the Pimsleur approach letter for Dan Roitman years ago. He grew that company to I think about 100 million or so before he sold it off the back of that letter, which was all about a woman who wanted to go to France and be able to have an affair with a hot French guy, and ended up doing very, very well. Man, I've written dozens of these things over the years. Did a bunch with Jeff Walker, who did Product Launch Formula. And then I did my own launch of my Pig Method copywriting training course. Originally, we did about $750,000 on that from a Facebook group with no affiliates, no lists, no nothing, except for I built a Facebook group and invited people to it and sold a pretty good amount. So that was a lot of fun too. Yeah.
What have been some of the biggest mistakes you've made, and what you learned from it?
The biggest mistakes I always make are thinking I'm smarter than I am. The biggest mistakes I've ever made is when I tried to go into a letter, especially when I was younger and more arrogant about things, right? Because people are like, oh, you're a genius, one of the best in the world, blah, blah, blah. And you let that get to you when you're in your 30s, right? Because whatever. But I would fall into this trap sometimes of being involved in a project or starting one of my own and thinking I could just use the fact that I know how to write copy to make something work. And so I didn't do the work to make sure the offer, was it the right thing to sell in the first place? Was the name the right thing? Did I do the right research on it, et cetera? That's the biggest mistake I always make, as I let my ego get in the way of my work ethic sometimes.
So Chris, I know, when we talked about, the different ways you work, we explored various of those. You mentioned, hey, people should maybe run their own pitch, right? Mm-hmm. But of course, now, if you're going to be running something and it's a product, you need inventory, you got to buy the media in advance. So what do you recommend to people if they're in that in-between stage of being, getting paid by the hour for their time versus being the entrepreneur that can go through $100 million on a campaign, but it's going to require millions of dollars.
It can, but I made my money originally. I didn't spend much at all, right? So I think my first offer I put out, it was called Text Your Wife Into Bed. Still sells quite well. I have all these texting programs under Michael Fiore. And I think I spent maybe 10 grand getting that offer off the ground because it was through ClickBank. It was an information product that I created myself. I wrote all the copy myself. I was the talent on the camera for it as well, because I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. And I was able to build that into a business and grow that over the course of years. So information marketing, it's slightly more difficult than it used to be in certain niches. The relationship advice niche certainly is more difficult to make money than it was. But if you can find a way to do an info product, that really gets rid of the problem of having to deal with inventory or anything like that in the first place. And if you come up with an offer that really works for affiliates, I didn't know anything about buying traffic for the first 3 or 4 years. I was doing really well with my own offers. I always tell people, you can only be world class at one or maybe two things. So figure out what that one or two things that you're world class at is. Do with that. For me, it's writing copy and occasionally getting up on stage and telling dick jokes during marketing speeches. Very good at that as well. Yeah.
I when I think back, it was just recently, I was having a meeting with somebody, and we got talking about some of the old time guys. You remember Joe Sugarman, for example?
I've met Joe many times. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Joe just passed away. I heard recently, God bless. And I mean, the Joe Sugarmans of the world, are just blue blockers, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how many, tens of millions, if
millions
not
and millions,
hundreds of, I don't even know, but there was one guy that knew he was awesome. And I love running around with guys like that. Of course, Jay Abraham's another one of some of the gurus, but sometimes some of the guys that have been, like me, I've been around a long time. I don't know some of the new things that are going on. So I think this is where you shine, because a lot of times people say, "Oh, I'm going to go back to one of these, old timers." And they still, the juices are still flowing, but there's a lot of new technologies. And I think this is probably one of the differences that you have over some of these old timers.
Yeah, I think the main thing for me, I like to evolve copy a little bit. My wife, Angie, she's a copywriter as well. And that's how we met, actually. And she was talking to an old mentor of mine about what I do, this guy, David Garfinkel, who taught me a lot. And Angie was asking David how I do what I do. Because if you read my copy, it's very different than what most people write. You would not necessarily even know you were being sold to for quite a while in it. And David was like, I don't know who taught him that, but he figured it out. And I think for me, my background is in film and TV and theater, right? I used to write plays and things like that. So I've really, I think, been responsible in a lot of ways for this push, especially through the VSL thing, for starting with a story, really making it focused on the story, really figuring out what that story is going to be. And I think that when I'm done with my career, that's what I will be known for kind of giving to the industry, is be a more effective way of telling stories and letters that gets people to take out their wallet and buy something.
Yeah, absolutely. When I have read some of your sale letters, I wasn't even the target market, but wanted to buy anyway. Yeah. Like I bought one of the products for women just because the story of, hey, she finds the boyfriend doing whatever. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, that one.
Like,
yeah, that's a good one.
You're like 25 pages in and you're like, oh, there's an offer here. Like
my favorite story for that is I'll be talking to a friend of mine, somebody I know through business or who studies my stuff or whatever. And they'll tell me they're like watching one of my VSLs on screen and their wife will like walk by in the background to do something. Maybe they're doing laundry or just whatever. And their wife will like walk by and then stop and they'll listen for a second and then they'll come over and just watch the entire letter, which I take as an incredible compliment for, I'm just known for understanding how to sell to women really well for whatever reason, despite being a very large, hairy man. So it works out somehow.
Hey, Chris, I've got a case study I just want to throw out to you. Okay. So, when the company Romans and get Romans and hymns of erectile dysfunction, they're basically just taking Viagra, a generic, and putting it in a brown paper bag and box and sending it to you. I met a guy that has a true compound pharmacy that he can make the drugs and he adds special ingredients and oxytocin, which is like an ecstasy type of thing.
The bonding chemical. Yeah.
Right. The bonding, right. It's the love hormone. Yep. So now here's a company that, they've got some celebrities. We got Ric Flair and we've got Carmen.
Nice. Woo!
Woo! Yeah. I had dinner with Rick last week.
Great, man. I'm a fan.
Now, my question to you is, here's a company that, they're not, Romans is a multi-billion
software company.
They've done amazing building that business over the last
unbelievable. Yeah. So how would you work creatively with a newco type of thing and a group like that?
I want to know what was different about it. The number one thing is what's different about it, right? Because like Hims and Roman pretty much have the low price erectile dysfunction med thing kind of taken over at this point.
Yeah.
Right? They've expanded their line quite a bit. They have all sorts of things for testosterone, et cetera. So the main thing I would want to be figuring out is I wouldn't try to compete on price at all. If anything, I would try to be premium priced, right?
Yep.
Premium price, especially if you have celebrities involved. Ric Flair was known for the strutting, like, screwing every woman he possibly could on airplanes all those years ago. People love him for that kind of thing. But I just want to be knowing, like, okay, is it more pure? Is it more powerful? Are the ingredients from some kind of exotic place in the world? Is this some kind of amazing root that was used by African tribesmen and the blah blah blah? Whatever I can think of that's going to give us a story to build off of it, right? Like what makes this different? What makes it special? I want to know who created the product in the first place and why. Like, what is the mission that actually drove this person to want to create this in the first place? That's what I'm always kind of focusing on, because people don't buy from companies; they buy from people if they can, right?
Right.
Now, certainly you can build a big brand. That's a whole other thing. But the marketing I tend to do tends to be more personality based.
Gotcha. So I'm enjoying our conversation here today. I want separate and apart. I want you to take a look at this company and let's talk about it. There may be an opportunity here.
Yeah, I'd love to.
And we'll
That's
get
the kind of thing I love writing about, right? Because I've made all my money in the relationship advice niche. So I've made my money by like teaching women how to find love and teaching men how to get laid. So writing anything about masculinity and femininity, and especially with men as we get older and we feel like we're losing our power in some way.
Yeah,
it's an interesting thing.
Hey, excellent, love it. Okay, so we'll offline. We're I'll get with Seth. He'll forward you some info type of thing. Okay,
sounds great, man. I'd love to. That sounds fun.
We'll check that one out because and I mean I shot over 1,000 infomercials over the years, and sometimes I mean, like, I'll never forget Tony Little, for example, the fitness guy, right?
Oh yeah.
So we spent 6 weeks going back and forth with a script for the infomercial. And Tony, we're sending him the first rough draft back and forth. Finally, we got it all tightened up. We show up for the shoot. Tony shows up. He takes the script, rips it in 5 different pieces and says, "See this? We're not going to use it. I've got it now." He says, "We're going ad lib." Okay. And by the way, it bombed when he did that. So
that is usually what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. And with a tight script and all the good stuff. But Tony, it's Tony's Tony. It's his prerogative.
I could sit with you and drink and pick your brain about infomercial stories from the last 30 years all night and be a very, very happy person. I could record that and sell it as a product at the end of the day. I'm sure you've got
it. Would be crazy. It would be crazy. Yeah. Thank you.
Chris, we greatly appreciate your time. We know it's incredibly valuable. For our folks watching and listening who want to learn more about the PIG method and all things Chris Haddad, where is the best place for us to send them?
I would go to the Chris Haddad Show, or Haddad, you can say it however you want. So the Chris Haddad Show, or you can go to thepigmethod.com. That's the training program I do for copywriters and marketers and business owners who want to learn how to use stories in their marketing. I actually shut it down for now about a month ago, so I'm not selling it right now. But if you go there, you can get on the waiting list to see if I ever open it up again. But the podcast is probably the easiest way to keep in touch with me. Yeah.
All right. Well, we greatly appreciate your time. We know it's incredibly valuable. Thank you for joining us. Thank everyone for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Good seeing you, Chris. Take care.
You too. Nice to meet you, sir.
You too. Bye.
Do you need money to fund your idea, product, or service? Are you ready to take your business to the next level but need capital to get it done? Kevin Harrington has heard more than 50,000 pitches and knows how to help you make the perfect pitch to get the funding for your entrepreneurial dream. He's distilled the process down in his perfect pitch cheat sheet, and it's yours for free. Just text PITCH to him right now at 727-888-2100. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free perfect pitch cheat sheet. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 to start funding your dream today.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.